then the French Revolution in many ways soured it. You could almost say that if the French Revolution hadn't taken place and it was just between the English and the Irish and the Americans, it may not have gotten to the stage that it did. That's a possibility. But certainly the volunteers. And then the United Irishmen was an expression of the belief that in order to retain this independence that it had won, that they had to give the franchise to the Catholics. And it's not out of the goodness of their hearts, but there was a large, that gives you a clue, there was a large element of wealthy and prosperous and bright and Catholics in the mix. So they understood, those who wanted independence understood very, very well that it would have to be, that religion would have to go out the door, and that they would have to adopt, like what the Americans did, a very largely secular state and separation of church and state. And this was now what happened really. Why the American Revolution? The French Revolution was so important was because it was not just a domestic affair for the French. Britain declared war on the French Republic in 1793. And that's really, again, what people forget. It's not just that the French had done this terrible thing, but the French. So now you had. So now England, Britain, which included Ireland, was actually at war with the French. So this really complicated things, and of course the United Irishmen then immediately. Actually, what happened right after, if you remember, if you read it, Wolfe Tone had been in Washington, and he was really trying to get the Americans in, and then Britain declared war on the French. He immediately went to France, because he realized now that that everything had changed, and as a result, the French immediately responded and did pretty well what they had done to the Americans in moving the fleet outside Yorktown and Chesapeake Bay, which really meant that Cornwallis was done. He was finished, because they couldn't. Americans forget that, but really and truly, the French. If the French hadn't moved that fleet there, as a result, Washington had travelled with, I think, one person up to, was it in New Hampshire, not New Hampshire, but to Connecticut, over in the winter, to persuade the French admiral or general or whatever to move the fleet there. That was a key event in the American Revolution. Now, that was understood by Wolfe Tone, and he immediately went to the French and said, if you can do the same for us, we can have an Irish Republic, allied to everything. And I have no doubt that Benjamin Franklin had a hand in all that too. Well, anyway, whatever, a French fleet arrived in Bantry Bay in December 1796. So it took a wee time, but it was, and it would have absolutely, there was no question, all they had to do was land, and Ireland was lost. There wasn't even a question about it. But like, whatever, it was like when the Spanish, in 1588, when they chose the worst possible, 100-year storm to launch their armada, the worst weather that Ireland had experienced in a century, and they had landed in December 76, and that wouldn't have worried them, because winters are normally mild anyway. But the fleet was scattered, and the moment was lost, and that was, to this day, often referred to as a Protestant wind. Driven away by a Protestant wind. Okay, I'm almost done. I just wanted to make sure that that I didn't miss any of these little points. Okay. Okay, yeah, that's pretty well. I've covered most of the points, and we'll break and we can have some questions afterwards.
I was just going to say, you mean the story that when the French were coming to rescue the Irish, that they were going to put in a sail, and so all the women went up onto the bluff to show where to come in, and of course the inside of the shawl was red, and some say it's because the fleet thought it was
The British
the
Army.
British Army, so they turned around and went back home.
Well, they were
I love that story. I think it's true.
they were Cork whores. Looking